You are listening to the Unapologetic Podcast, starring the actual and factual Kimberly Smith and Sir Goodwin Live, weekly podcast based around Black culture, current events, entertainment, best friend series, Black love series, and controversial and informative topics and shows featuring special guests. Subscribe, listen, and follow on all podcasts and social media platforms.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
I am so good with Nakadimba Yonakin among the Saye. I am Jamal, Nakadimba Yonakin among the Saye. I am Nakadimba Yonakin among the Saye. I am
Mama Emily.
Nakadimba Yonakin among the Saye. I am Zahra, Nakadimba Yonakin among the Saye. All right. We have royalty in the building today on the Unapologetic Podcast. Oh, we've been looking forward to this. I was so excited when they said yes. This was probably pre. I said I wasn't gonna cry. I reached out pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and now that things have slowed down, we are glad to have Miss Zahra, Glenda Baker in the building with us today. And Mama Emily is with us today. This was 30 years.
Yes.
Is it 30?
Nearly.
Yeah.
Very close to it.
Yeah. 30 years in the making with two young ladies who have been so influential on a community.
Yes.
Just by putting the post up yesterday, I think that you all see how much you all influenced us, and it's just been great. And even that song has stood. We sing that song all the time.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Oh yeah. So before we get officially started, I want to say thank you. I thank you all for being great and spreading the gospel, and letting us know that Black is beautiful, and to be unapologetically Black.
Yes.
And it's been great. Just to for self-esteem purposes and all those great things. And I'm pretty sure Jamal and Taisha can, but Jamal is here with us today, co-hosting. Thank you, Jamal. We have to introduce them. Jamal, thank you for being here. He's no stranger to the Unapologetic Podcast. And Taisha Williams, all graduates of Manir School, are here to help co-host this Black History Month finale show.
Yes.
Miss Baker and Miss Hooper. Jamal, why don't you tell us about the impact that Miss Baker and Miss Hooper had?
Oh, wow. It is a tremendous impact. And as Anthony just said, we sing that song all the time. I'm a fan of reciting you all's poetry. I too sing America.
Yeah.
I am the darker brother.
Okay.
They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I smile, eat well, and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll eat at the table when company comes. No one will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I learned that from you all. And, you know, Black is beautiful, my people, Langston Hughes,
Yes.
Madam Brooks. We learned a lot from you all. I took from you all. I still love to see the theater. And I learned as a Black man that I could like the theater, that I didn't have to be into sports. I could like the arts. My wife and I, we travel and we see that we just went to see Frozen, and I'm unabashedly unashamed of loving theater, and you all did that for me, so thank you all so very much.
Taisha, thank you for that wonderful rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Why don't you tell us the impact that they've made on you? You are the singer and actress and all of those great
I
things.
can say all of those things.
Yes.
I mean, just having women that were unapologetically Black, and growing up and not just learning about African American culture, but African culture.
Yes.
For me, growing up, it was like, all right, not even lift every voice and sing. It was the Star Spangled Banner, but then it's like, that's not your anthem. And then I learned, lift every voice and sing, and that's my anthem. But then you have Nkosi Sikeleli, Africa, and that's my anthem. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So just being able to glean from you all that strength, that boldness, that grace and beauty to just be who I am and love who I am and let that radiate. Give it to the world, everything that was poured into me, just give it back, because I've been doing it. I've been doing the theater and the music, and I had an opportunity. There was a period of time, I would say about almost 15 years ago now, where Muneer didn't have any music in the school. So I volunteered to go start a choir. And it just happened to be around Black History Month when I went, and Black is So Beautiful is one of the songs that I taught the kids. So I Black is so beautiful. Black is so beautiful. Black is so beautiful. And it's so beautiful, beautiful to be Black. Yeah. And I don't know. It's too much to speak on,
really
but
is.
just treasure times in my life that I'll carry with me always and impart to my children. Now, hopefully, they'll impart it to their children. You created a legacy.
That's culture.
And thank you. It's too small a word.
Yes. We didn't know what to expect when you all came to Muneer, in the beginning. It was completely different, but we bought in, and it worked.
We didn't know what to expect.
That's the truth.
What I was saying earlier is that many people parachuted into our communities and left. And what was great about you all is that we always saw you traversing through the community after school as well. So it wasn't just a part of you all's lives. You all made us your life, and we really appreciated that. And it was absolutely. So
So how did you all meet?
This is a good story. But before we start, I do just want to say what an honor it is to be invited into this space. And you're talking about the impact that we had on you, but you all had an incredible impact on us then. And this moment is one that I will just really treasure, to have an opportunity to be reflective, because we don't always have a chance to do that. And I come from a family of educators, and I know that especially at this time in the country, we're not always appreciating the impact that educators have. And so it is really an honor to have this moment to feel like, hey, maybe that made a difference. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You deserve your flowers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this all started actually, for me, I'm going to take it back. It started when I went to college at Butler University, and I was told that I basically had to leave behind my gospel singing in order to be accepted into this opera style of singing at Butler. And it really shut me down. It made me feel like I wasn't allowed to bring all of myself into the room, that my culture was not valid. And it actually made me start feeling like I couldn't sing. So I shut down. And it wasn't until several years later when I started realizing that the songs that I sang in church were actually songs that had been sung for centuries. Not just in my church, but across the country. Like Lift Every Voice was a song that I thought, I thought, that's just what we did. You sing that song, you stand up, everybody stands up, you sing that song. In Indiana, I didn't know that all over the country that it meant something. And I didn't know songs like Swing Low Sweet Chariot had hidden messages inside of them. I didn't know that Precious Lord, or all of those songs had messages for our survival.
Yes.
And when I started realizing that, something in me started waking up. Something in me started saying, this is my purpose. This is what I came to do, is to not only sing those songs, but to share this message of hope and resilience. And recognize that it's a tool that we can still use. So when I moved to Chicago, I was asked to create a residency on African American music that I could take into the schools. Because my thing was, I felt like if opera music, first of all, African music was like the first music, right?
Absolutely.
So all of the fundamentals of music are inside of that music. You've got dynamics, you've got tempo, you've got rhythm, you've got polyrhythms, you have everything that's present. And you could teach music from using African music. So opera music isn't the only music, classical music isn't the only music that you can teach the fundamentals of music from. And I felt that it was important for our people in particular to understand our heritage and our legacy and the power that we have. So I was hired through the Old Town School of Folk Music to design this residency. And as I was working on the residency, I went to Emily because I actually went to a bookstore and Emily was working there. And I decided that I wanted to find stories to go along with the songs so that it would be an easier way to understand to contextualize the song, like rather than giving a lecture on songs from captivity or songs from the Civil Rights Movement. I wanted stories to go along with them so that young people could embrace it more fully with their whole body, as opposed to feeling like, okay, now we're going to have a lecture in history. So when I went to the bookstore trying to find books, then Emily was the one that helped me. And
so I think I'll give a little background then to how I came to be working in that bookstore. So first of all, I grew up in a family that was very grounded in faith, but also came from a family of educators, as I mentioned. And my mother, really believed that kids should perform. And so I went to college and majored in theater and moved to Chicago thinking that I would pursue a career as an actress, and felt pretty immediately that there were not the kind of opportunities that I had anticipated for a young Black actress. And I was sort of thinking, okay, so this isn't going the way I thought it was going to go, and what do I want to do next? And so I was working in this bookstore.
Yep.
And Zahra came in and said, could you help me find stories to go with these songs? And I said, sure. And she said, by the way, I'm going to be singing to open for a concert given by Jackie Torrance, who was the premier African American storyteller in the country, but really premier storyteller in the country, period.
Yes.
And I'd never seen a professional storyteller before. And so I was like, sure. I came to that concert and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to be that.
Right.
So the Illinois Arts Council has a grant called the Master Apprenticeship Program in the folk arts, where if you want to learn something that is a folk art form, you can pick someone you want to study with. So I picked a wonderful storyteller named Shanta, and I studied with her, and I said to Zahra, okay, now I'm telling stories. Would you like to, try doing this? And so when we started trying to get ready for coming to do things in the classroom at Muneer, my roommate at the time was like, y'all should do this out. Like, people would like to hear you. And so sort of kind of at the same time that we started developing things for Muneer, we also started, sharing our work in coffee shops, etc. But I think I cannot emphasize enough the significance of the fact that we've been performing together for about 30 years, and that seminal pieces of our repertoire were developed to be performed at Muneer, and with that particular audience in mind. And I'll give you an example. So there's a story called The People Who Get Fly, and Zahra came to me saying, oh, we should do this story, and we should do it. And I was like, I want to do it there. I want to do that story because that story is talking about people being able to fly away. And I was like, and I feel like there are children in the classroom who might feel like I want to fly away and I can't fly away. And so I was like, I'm not at peace with that. And I kept reading the story. She kept saying, but we got to do this. We got to do this. And I was like, okay, let me listen and see what is Spirit trying to say about this story. And so, I was sitting in church on Sunday and heard Reverend Jeremiah Wright preach this sermon where he talked about the drummers, and how there was a time where people could not hear. I don't know, somehow I got something from him talking about the drummers, and it helped me to think of the beginning of the story. And the end of the story that we came up with essentially said that those who could fly away were important, but those who stayed were also important. Absolutely. And I felt like that was a message that I felt comfortable taking into the school. That was a really significant moment. So that's an example of how, like, the work that we developed was very much, and pieces that we continue to perform were developed with that particular audience in mind.
That's awesome.
And I also think about that also for me. My grandparents were sharecroppers, so when we develop stories or think about who are the ones that we want to elevate, sometimes I also think about the ones that, just got up every morning and they kept doing it. They didn't go down in the history books, but their stories are still valid and they deserve to be recognized. So I feel like that we try to find that balance in the stories that we tell too.
How did you all end up at Muneer School?
So Muneer somehow was because I was the residency was through the Old Town School of Folk Music, and that at that time they were on Armitage. So it wasn't very far from Muneer. So somehow you all were in the radar, and so someone just recommended that I come over there and talk to the principal and see if we could get it started.
That's awesome.
And who was the Mr.
Carrington.
Yeah, because he was the first day I was there. He was like. Because it was only supposed to be a 6-week residency.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, so what if we want you longer?
That's so Mr. Carey. Just cool, laid back.
You know, I think also in terms of what we see happening in arts education, like at that time, Zahra was brought in through Old Town School of Folk Music, but then Ms. Shemansky and Mr. Carrington were like, okay, so what if we want you to come back and do the whole school?
Yeah.
And so it became a long-term partnership. But we weren't called teaching artists at that time, and it wasn't like they weren't saying, we want you to come improve the reading scores. They were saying, we want you to be part of the school.
Yes.
Right.
And so when we were designing the lessons, we weren't saying, we want to integrate this and that. We were saying, we just want to be part of the life of this community. And I really feel like our goals were a lot focused on like empowerment, like self-esteem.
Also, because I was like, I don't know, other than the choir, which was amazing. Other than the choir, I don't know that we actually had culminating events. Did we?
No.
I think it was more about having joyful experiences with the arts, and from that, getting a sense of empowerment. But it wasn't like this. In 6 weeks we gotta have this
It wasn't so structured.
Talk about some of your initial impressions, if you can recall back then. Like, what did you think coming into Manier, and what did you get from coming to Manier?
Good question.
We know the kids we grew up with.
We are those kids.
Right. Well, I think, for one, I have to say that walking into the school, I can't remember the name of the lady that was in the office, that the greeter.
Rita Lindsay. Was it Rita Lindsay?
Older lady.
Miss
Allen.
Miss Allen.
Yeah.
She was like, hello, baby.
Yeah.
She just passed about a month ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, but so the first impression of going into school always is who the greeter is and how they make you feel when you step into the building. And she was the greeter, and I always just felt like this must be home. You know, so whatever happens at home, we're gonna work it out. You know?
I definitely felt a real sense of community. Like, and when I say that, I mean that the teachers were in concert with us. I remember feeling like we're battling, you know, any particular teacher. It was very much that we were working in partnership. And I remember, this is kind of a crazy story, but I remember this one crazy moment where, this is when the Jordan tennis shoes had first started to come out. And I was in a first grade classroom, and this young lady was kicking her Jordans just on and off her feet and on and off her feet, and totally distracting from my lesson. And I said, if you do that again, I'm gonna put you out. And she did it again. And I said, I'm gonna take your shoes and I'm gonna put you out. And I took her shoes and I put her out, and there was no, like, you know, I was fully supported in that. So she was, you know, in the hallway, and I continued the lesson. The teacher, you know, kept an eye on her. I finished the lesson. When I finished the lesson, I went to the office, and I said to Ms. Shemansky, I said, you know, I want to let you know that I took this young lady's shoes. I'm giving them to you so they can be returned to her. But I don't, if there's an issue, you know, if parents are upset about it, I want to let you know that this happened. But she said, if you did something that got her more engaged or her family more engaged to come, that's okay. Yeah. Like, I wasn't told like you were out of line or this was inappropriate, and I never had a problem from her again, you know, after that.
Good.
There was like this sense of, because ultimately it was about, we got to do this lesson, and I can't have something happening that's not focusing on it. you know, at the same time, I feel like when we would have an idea for a lesson, like we were thinking maybe we would want to, they would be all over it. Or, you know, it became community in that we would have ideas, teachers would have ideas. I felt like it was a sense of we were working toward a common goal.
Because I think I remember Miss Machula, I can't remember the other, there was like a team of teachers that had like a African American studies
Miss
focus.
Mitchell, Miss Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Right. So they included us in on what their goals were for that. So we were also kind of trying to tailor.
Miss Branch too.
Miss Branch, yeah.
Like we literally did a slave auction in our classroom
Wow.
as a part of a Black History Month lesson.
Yeah.
And the fairer skinned students,
Whoa.
like seriously.
Wow.
We did that in the classroom, and it was a learning experience that I will never forget.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And I know people will look at it now like, wow, that's insane, it's over the top, but it was a reality.
It was. Yeah.
Although harsh, but our people made it through that. And it's that resilience.
Yeah, right.
It's a great segue. Seriously though, I don't know, it was all needed.
Yeah.
Are you all still in the classroom?
I am. But I want to get back just
Oh,
to
sorry. Okay.
this. What I feel like there were some days when, well, I wasn't sure like how spirituals were going to fall because it was right at the time, I think pretty much like right when when rap and hip hop was happening. So this quicker tempo music was happening at the same time that I'm coming in and going, swing low. But what we were doing, one of the lessons I remember was with Swing Low was that we mixed it with Harriet Tubman and acting out, helping enslaved people move out of slavery and those that were in the field singing Swing Low while Harriet Tubman was pulling some of the other ones away, and they were using the song to distract the so-called master of what was really going on. So this whole so it was for me, it was the challenge of trying to figure out how to meet you where you were, but to enhance the knowledge in a way with your whole body.
Yes.
So that you might be able to accept it. And for the most part, I mean, I remember people like catching on to it and, wanting to be a part of it and coming up with their own ideas and volunteering to take on different parts and stuff. So I was really excited about it. And I was also thinking, it was during that time that I was also going through a lot of physical challenges myself. And there had been some precancerous cells that were found. And so I remember some of my days at Manier feeling like, if this is what I came to do, I'm just going to share as much love as I can. And it's like, I just feel like, I felt like everybody I looked at, I saw the essence of love and beauty, and that was the vibration that I wanted to work off of. And the way that, that it's coming back, it's like, wow, that was like, yeah, that's what
You say you're still in the classroom now?
I am now. I never stopped Dr. Davis invited me back to Manier maybe about 3 years ago to do the 8th grade graduation commencement speech, so that was really exciting.
I would love to be there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm still doing now. I work for an organization called Urban Gateways in particular, and they send me into schools doing residencies. And right now I've been doing a long-term residency at a school in Inglewood.
That's awesome.
Mays Elementary, and this is, I think, my 6th or 7th year there.
That's
so I've
awesome.
gotten to grow with them as well. So.
It's amazing because they'll get to share the same story that they're sharing right now, and that's gonna be awesome.
And it's funny, as Aye, I taught Aye to one classroom, and the next week, because I've been, that school itself changed its name from Banneker to Mays, so we both were at Banneker as well.
Okay.
And then I came back years later after, the merging. And so when I taught Aye, the next time I saw one child, the next time I went in, this child came up to me and said, "My uncle said he know that song."
That's awesome.
So I would say I'm not actively in elementary classrooms anymore, but I am still teaching actively. So I work at the University of Chicago at the Logan Center for the Arts.
That's awesome.
And I am the Senior Director of Community Arts Engagement. So I design programs that work to have meaningful access of community into the space. And I also, outside of that, so I teach storytelling at the university, but I also do a lot of teaching in a lot of different environments. So I work with a group of women of color called the Soul Collective, and I work as artistic director, so designing and helping people to learn storytelling. I teach storytelling in the community for people who want to learn how to do it. I've been invited into a lot of, it's been kind of an amazing blessing for me to see the places that storytelling has taken me. And so I, over the last year, did a series of workshops for nonprofit organizations on ethical storytelling.
That's awesome.
Trying to help organizations think about what does it mean to be present in various communities and to activate the stories of communities in a way that is ethical, so that we're not exploiting or taking advantage of the stories. So that's been exciting, and Zahra and I together this summer did a workshop through Old Town School of Folk Music with an organization called Mamas, which is a group of women whose children have been wrongfully incarcerated.
Oh,
And we
wow.
work with them to help them tell their stories in an effort of advocacy. So I'm still doing lots of teaching all the time in different places. I do a lot of teaching of teachers too, through an organization called Opportunities for All, where I'm trying to help teachers think about how they can do storytelling in the classroom.
I'm gonna say, people are thinking right now, you all were cutting edge 30 years ago.
Like, honestly.
Like, you talk about culturally relevant pedagogies, and you all were doing this before that was a thing. So people are thinking right now, where did you learn? How did you learn that? Where did that come from? I mean, you talk about your school at Butler. Where did you come up with these strategies, and very effective strategies, incorporating our culture, not just during Black History Month, but all the time. And so I'd like to hear what were the impetus.
Well, like I said initially, it was personal for me. It was part of it is being a growing up a dark-skinned Black girl. Like you talked about light skin. It's like even within our own community, we still have a lot of work to do to deal with our internalized racism and our view of self and each other. And part of the healing is for us to be able to see the best in each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So my heart leads, and then later on, I meet scholars who go, "Oh, well, that's called this. That's called that." Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, okay.
There's a lot of things I want to say in response to that. First of all, I'll emphasize that I grew up in a household where my mother was a teacher and my mother taught for 33 years. My sister also was a teacher, and now she's at Northwestern in the Department of Education teaching teachers. So I grew up in an environment that really supported education.
Right.
When I went to college, I went to Yale, and I was a theater major, and I also finished the teacher training program to teach English. And so when I moved to Chicago, I thought, well, I'm going to do some theater and I'm going to teach. And when I went to the Board of Education, I wasn't ready to be a full-time teacher because I still wanted to be a pack. I wanted to substitute. And my experience was terrible. I was just received in a horrible way. And I was like, I want to do that. And because it had to do with, I didn't feel like my personhood was being honored in that experience. And so when Zahra came to me, it was like a way to go into a school where we would be welcomed into the community. That was important. But in terms of like designing lessons, it was a lot of thinking about, I think, it really was a focus on cultural consciousness and what can we do that nurtures cultural consciousness, which I feel like ultimately is about love,
Yes.
And so what I think about our time at Badir, kind of there's like a lesson that I remember the most. It's that lesson when we were teaching about Harriet Tubman and we made the classroom the Underground Railroad and we were crawling under the desks and doing that. There's another lesson that we did where we were activating the sit-in movement, in the classroom. But I would, I think it pushed me because I would be constantly remembering experiences that I had. Oh, I want to share this poem, or reading and reading and reading. Like, what's the right poem to take? What's the right story to take? For this moment. And I think for us as a people, in terms of the significance and relevance of that artists and cultural makers have to a moment, I think I'm always thinking like, what is the story that people need to hear right now?
And sometimes we don't know, because part of it, we both had to trust each other. We might have one idea, but step into a room and either one of us could be like, something tells me we need to do this right now.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then later on, somebody be like in tears going, that was the story I needed to hear. Because, so it's like trusting. But I also, I wanted to add to what you were saying, because I don't know what it is, but it's like, the culture is part of it, but everything that we're saying is that it's a full body experience. It's not just like sitting and watching a movie or someone else or reading about it. It's activating your body in the experience of it, that we both knew when we were designing our plan, our lessons, that we knew that we wanted that to be a part of it as well.
Another thing that I want to emphasize the significance of the principal saying we want you to work with the whole school. And sort of the learning experience that we had of saying, okay, this is the story we think we're going to do with 4th through 8th grade. And then saying, actually, I think the kindergartners can handle it, and sort of like, how do we, what is appropriate for various age groups, but also like what is empowering, I think was important. And that's, I think, something we really learned by being, if we had only been going to 6th through 8th grade, we wouldn't have learned what is the impact of our telling, that story, people who could fly, those who ride the winds, of the kindergartners, Yeah.
So there was no target age group that you all had in mind going to Badir?
Initially, the target, I think, was 4th, might have been 4th through 6th for that one residency. But then after that residency was when Mr. Massey came up. And she caught both of us in the hallway and said, I want everybody to have it. And she was like, write up a plan for it and get it back to me.
I was pleased and honored to be able to say that I was a part of that 4th through 6th grade. So I didn't miss out on that initial opportunity.
Right. I was in 5th grade, and I remember you all it felt like you cared. You kept coming back. It felt like you cared. I didn't know I was black, but I definitely didn't think that, black was beautiful. That's not what was, especially being dark skinned. And I thought and Sandy knows, and I love Miss Baker. It was like, wow. You know, you were singing and you were confident, and it was like, wow. I didn't know I was black until I got to LaSalle. I went to LaSalle in 7th grade. That's when I knew I was black. You know,
somebody else told you.
Yeah, lips and nose and all this stuff. You know, that's when things change.
No, that's so real.
And then into Lincoln Park, you know, I was, you know, that's when all the cultures kind of, you know, blended and melted together. But just you all saying black was beautiful, and that was just a wonderful experience. That, you know, I'm unapologetic about it. I'm black. I'm fat. I'm you know. I got these big old features and all that stuff. You know, I'm loud.
The beauty in being black is that, I mean, we're just amazing creations. Like, I don't think there's anything we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the fear comes in. But it's also where the blinders come up. It's like, all right, man. How's this person? Who said it? An educated Negro is a dangerous Negro. I think it was Paul Robeson. I may be wrong, but I believe so. And now at 40, I'm learning that it's not just Black history. Like, Black history is American history. Black history is African history. Black history is European history. We're present everywhere. We're not just here. We're present. We're active. We're alive. We're flowing. We're part of everything. And literally everything is a part of us. No pieces move without us. And I think we were able to get just a sampling of that identity being introduced to you all, and it's just grown. Like, and it continues to grow. This is like, man, for all of the kids that didn't have, you know, a Miss Baker or, you know, Miss Britta come into their school, what they missed out on. So that's where my heart goes. It's like, okay, so now it's my turn.
They own Miss Hooper.
Hopefully, there are a lot of culture workers out there.
That's what pulled me there. You know what I mean? To go back to Manir, like, no, they need this. I had this. I know what this did for me. So I'm glad that you have gentlemen like these that had the same experience that I had, because Jamal worked in the schools, and it's like your job is your job, but you do more than your job every day.
Yeah. And
so what do you do, Jamal?
I'm a police officer.
Oh, okay.
And I work security at some schools. I used to. I had a baby and got married, so I know I only have one job now.
Okay. Okay.
But it's important to see faces like you all, and to really understand that these kids don't come to the classroom as empty vessels. They have a wealth of experiences and knowledge, and what you all did was extract those things. They're empowered by virtue of being black and being born. You all made us realize that we were empowered and beautiful. And these are the things. I'm going into education. I'm 2 classes away from getting my master's in education. And I want to be a disruptor. You all were disruptors in the very best way. You all made us reach down deep and realize who we were, and that we were black and beautiful and capable. And so I want to, you all don't realize the impact that you all have had over time. And I am grateful to have known you guys. Absolutely.
And you all are, you know, on big stages now. You know, I follow you on Facebook and things. You know, you all performing all over on big stages and still impacting people today. And we thank you. We definitely thank you.
Yes.
We're black and we're proud and we're beautiful. And it started. We understood that at an early age, and we've been able to carry it for all of these years. You know, I was able to have Miss Baker at my wedding,
Yeah.
and married and all these children, and
Yeah.
all of us are
Beautiful
married with
children,
children, and and to be good people. That's what it's all about. And to spread love and give love. All we have this situation going on in the Ukraine, which I'm getting old because I turn on CNN now in the morning. I turned it on like, what's going on
Right,
there?
It's very France and Haiti-ish.
And it's just like,
It's ugly.
yeah, and that's not what it's about. Whether you're black or whatever color. And it wasn't. When we talk about black, it's not being black. It's just being confident in who you are and comfortable in your own skin. It's not trying to demean any other race.
Right.
But we are who we are.
Right.
So we definitely thank you all for that.
Well, it's just, my heart is just so full. It's so wonderful. You just never know, what impact you have, and I just really appreciate you all taking the time to invite us.
Thank you.
And I would be wrong if I didn't ask you all to perform something.
Rather win.
Okay. Those who rather win. Okay.
So we will do our signature piece, which is the one that we did, which is the one that Emily talked about, that we found that all the age ranges needed some part of that story. And the joy of it is that it's a story that combines both of our talents. The music from our history is woven in through it. So I'm going to start with O for You. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be enslaved, I'll be buried in my grave and fly home to my God and be free, be free.
They say that back in Africa, there were those who could ride the wind. But now, not everybody was blessed with the gift of being able to ride the wind. You see, there were some who were blessed with the gift of being able to work the ground and make things grow. And there were some who could take what came from the ground and mix it together to make medicines to heal people. And there were some who were blessed with the gift of music. And sometimes they use that gift to sing. Yes. But other times, they use that gift to talk on the drums. And they use their drums to send messages to each other. But there came a time when those who were working the ground, and those who were healing, and those who were singing, they were all so busy doing their work that they did not hear that the rhythm in the drum was changing. You see, the drummers were trying to send a warning. The warning was that strangers were slipping into their villages, and in this way, strangers were able to come in and to divide them against each other and to capture them and carry them into captivity. And when they were captured, the gifts closed up inside of them. And they were carried
across the water, and they landed on these shores, where they were forced to work in fields called plantations. And as they were out there working in those fields side by side, some of them started to sing.
Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
And on one particular plantation, there was this strong young man. And he got everybody to singing together while they were working, and it was lifting their spirits and changing their rhythm, and the overseer didn't like it. He saw this young man and what he was doing. He came over and he was about to start when there was this old woman way back in the corner of the field. And she looked over there at them about to whip that young man, and she just raised up her arms and she called on the spirit, and she called out that young man's name. And when she called his name, he woke up on the air and he rose the wind. Now, everybody saw him go, but they did not understand how it was happening. So the next day, the overseer was out there just watching. And watching, he was determined to figure it out. And about noon, when the sun was straight up in the sky and the heat was bearing down, there was a young woman working with her baby on her back, and she stopped to comfort her baby.
Hush, little baby, don't you cry. You'll be an angel by and by.
He didn't like that she had stopped working. He came over, he was about to start, when that old woman just raised up her arms, called on the spirit, called out that young woman's name. She held that baby, and they rolled
my name. Oh.
Now, all afternoon, that old woman got busy just calling out the names, calling out the names, calling out the names of the ones who were blessed with that gift. And when she called them, they walked up on the air and they rolled her wind. Well, the overseer realized that she had something to do with it. He called her over. He called the plantation owner. They were about to kill her. And she looked at them. She said, "You can't stop me. We are the ones who ride the wind." Oh! And she was gone. Now the ones who had left, they started calling out to her because they wanted her to take them with her. But she couldn't take them because not everyone was given the gift of being able to ride the wind. You see, the ones who were left here, we were given the gift of being able to survive.
Lord, help me to hold.
We held on to each other and prayed prayers and dreamed dreams and sang songs and told stories. This story about those people who could ride the wind is a very important story because it reminds us that no matter what situation we have been in,
we have always made a way to be free.
Wow. Timeless, ageless.
But understand, that story wouldn't be told the way that it's told if we hadn't been working at Minear when we developed that story. We developed that story that
So
way
that's dedicated
because of the audience we would be sharing it with.
Wow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was, you took me back. Oh, wow. You all have just supreme talent, first of all. And it's real, it's authentic. Felt that in here, you know. And I see myself sitting in Miss Mitchell's classroom right now. Well, thank you all so much for being here today.
Yes.
And continue fighting the good fight and
You all,
educating
y'all.
and teaching.
Pass it on, pass it on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's an honor.
Yes.
Absolute honor. Thank you.
Yes, all of us, we have our own children, but we definitely are in the community,
Doing
doing what we can.
Unapologetic.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So we want to thank Mama Emily for being here today. Wonderful storyteller. We want to thank Zahra, Glenda Baker, Miss Baker for being here today. Your voice is as strong as ever.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
All right. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you all. Jamal, thank you for being here as well. I know this was special for you, and it was special for you to be here with me, as well as Taisha. I'm staying on her. You know, hey, don't cancel on me. Get on down here. Taisha lives in Rockford, so she came a long way to be here today. But they
Do it
said,
again.
yes. Thank you all for being here. Continued success and keep giving the people what we need. We need this. Hopefully you learned something back there too. You know, we'll be talking about it later. Round of applause.
Yes.
Thank you to your beautiful assistant.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And we'll take a quick picture and then we'll let everybody get on to their own homes. All right? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, that was excellent.
Oh,
That was excellent.
My wife is probably saying, "You're such a crybaby, Joe."